Good evening, all my podcast people out there. Welcome to another edition of Birds of a Feather. Sorry if your girl AJ Suburban Princess. How are you? If I sound a little low, there's been a lot of things going on if you haven't realized since the last Eagles game on Sunday versus the Rams, which was a win. But since I was actually in LA during this whole event and watching it from a sports bar on the boardwalk in Santa Monica, I'm a little jet lagged still. So pardon me if I do sound a little down, although it would be befitting being that the whole game ended in kind of a sad ending. Yes, it's great that the Eagles have recaptured the title of NFC East champions, but it really doesn't make a difference when your head quarterback, Carson Wentz, who has been making waves and becoming such a powerful force on the offense of this team and making 2017 such an unforgettable season, you do worry now that his ACL injury has been confirmed in his left knee, if this truly means that, is he ever going to be the same Carson Wentz? If you listen to the media, to Twitter, to any of the radio shows since yesterday, you would think it's the end of the world. You would think it's time to turn it in. The whole season was a failure. They're not going to the Super Bowl. They'll be lucky if they win another game, blah, 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 blah. Me personally, I'm a newer fan within the early 2000s since my father pretty much raised me to always like the Philly sports and we were a 3-for-4 family technically because we weren't into hockey, but I've grown into a woman that learned to be very well-rounded when it came to all sports. So I've grown to become more attracted to the underdog, the ugly duckling symbol that we have become as Philly 4-for-4 teams and fans. So I kind of am used to always being the bridesmaid and never the bride. So forgive me if I'm always kind of settling, but part of me is upset and sad that Wentz is not going to be playing for at least another year. But I'm also sad for him because he was starting to grow into his own. And this was only his second year, but he has made unbelievable strides in his career, in his very young career. Money-wise, who knows what this kid is going to be signed to in terms of a contract. I'm sure it's going to be astronomical. I'm hoping that next year's draft has nothing to do with people even thinking about getting another quarterback, wondering if Carson's ever going to be the same again. I can't even wrap my brain around 2018 season at all. Every offseason since Donovan left has been very interesting with this whole organization, but there's nothing more sad to see such a promising year kind of crash to a halt, especially when the team has renewed a lot of vigor, a lot of old school, rah-rah out of people. It's brought a lot of people together. It's unified the city, and it's also just lifted a whole huge black cloud that seemed to be over our city in terms of our teams. We were finally seeing the Sixers get revived, and, the Flyers were starting to make a little bit of a turnaround. And once again, I don't know if it's because of Mercury retrograde on top of everything with the way the world's going, but it's a good thing that this is just sports. Mind you, these guys who sacrifice their bodies every day and play this sport, they're probably a little bit more mentally drained, if not stressed, more than us fans are because they have to play. The Eagle season isn't over. They are now officially 11-2. They officially have owned their division, but there's still the whole championship of the NFC to get. Now, this is where, to me, it gets real difficult, especially since I just finished watching the replay of the LA Rams Eagles game. And not only was it a great time to be in California, because I hadn't been on vacation in so long, but it was great to see so many fans pretty much usurp most of that huge Coliseum. And to know that they were willing to stand by their team, even if at the time no one knew what had happened to Carson other than what was first reported on Twitter and what was put out in the media. It has not been pleasant since I got home to listen to sports radio for the past 2 days. In fact, I felt compelled to call the sound off line on Miss Anelli's show today because I knew he was going to be doom and gloom because he's an older generation and, they're used to, the Buddy Ryan, they're used to the defeats. And, it's very hard for the old and new generation to kind of gel on how long or how fast you recover from a devastating loss of one of your favorite players, especially one who's clearly made an impact on this organization in a positive way. I personally, as a person who's been raised Christian, Baptist specifically, it's good to know that someone of Carson's stature as well as pride in his faith as a Christian man to put all his trust in the Lord. And mind you, not everybody's going to believe, and a lot of stuff has made people actually talk more about God and Jesus than probably anybody will in this lifetime. But to me, it puts focus back on things that we can't control, and nobody was going to be able to control the fact that Carson would get hurt. I think that idea had been thrown out a couple times during the season because a lot of fans who have called into shows, a lot of people who have chatted amongst each other have always been worrying about when is the shoe going to fall. And so now it has. So now that it has, you would think today that everybody would be a little relieved now because all that what if is gone. But the problem is it's all gone. Even the hope for continuing the season is gone. Yet people seem to forget his backup is Nick Foles, who's been here before and gotten us to a playoff round. Now, mind you, had the defense held and Riley Cooper had caught a very important ball, we'd probably be looking back at Nick and saying, oh, he's been here before. He's won this for us. We can get back to the playoffs. But because he hasn't, and he hadn't had any success in any other team since he returned back to Philly, there's very little confidence that he can really sustain this new invigorated team without their invigorated leader. So it's very easy to be sad and discouraged. And I personally got sick and tired of hearing the negativity as soon as I got back into the city. I really didn't like to hear it on the morning show today on 97 Fanatic, and I really didn't like to hear it in Mikey's show. But I wanted to see if somewhere along the line they would all listen to reason and just realize that at the end of the day, I'd rather have the hands of someone who's been here before and is familiar with the plays and is familiar with the type of offense that he pretty much watched on the sidelines since he got here. Yes, Mike Missinelli has no faith in Foles. He's not a fan of him. In fact, he said he hated him. And I think Anthony Gargano feels the same way. But I'm the type of listener who decides, okay, I can hear this, and I know you don't mean your hate words, but you have to stop pouting. It gets to the point where you have to realize, you don't necessarily always have to buy into the fact that Philly is cursed. Stuff just happens. In case anyone hasn't paid attention, there have been a lot of big players that have been shut down by injury this year, and they just re-released the list throwing Carson's name on it. I mean, if anything, now the injured list is becoming a clique. I mean, they should all hashtag and create their own little groups per team to show that, hey, it's going to take me a while to get back too. We're all in this together. As fans, it's frustrating because we have been trying to wait to look like a complete team for years. And this is why it's bringing out such negative, hasty, almost viral type of reactions with the crowd, because a lot of people really honestly felt that we were going to go to the Super Bowl. I didn't want to fall into that trap. I welcome the possibility, but I sure as hell never said that I definitely saw them going to the Super Bowl. I know that winning a conference championship is 10 times harder than winning the division, especially when your division has been weak from the jump. The Cowboys are going to play us on New Year's Eve like it's their last game. So we could lose that game, but by then it probably won't matter because we'll have home field advantage for the playoffs. So I'm just hoping for a post-season game. And it'll be my first if we do have it, especially at home. It'll be even more exciting. So when I get to finally work it, I hope that we work another one. I don't doubt that Nick can't get us there. I just have to worry if the team starts losing their synergy and their rhythm because he's there as opposed to how Carson was running the offense. And that really is probably what's getting under everybody's crawl who feels like it's over, besides the fact that they bit into the hype of the Super Bowl and all these things that could possibly happen without realizing that every week is a different type of team. Regardless of what the stats say, regardless of whether you say, oh, they're a bad team, the Rams played the Eagles pretty damn hard, and none of their running backs had any problems being breaking tackles because obviously some of the D decided to forget to tackle, except for Ronald Darby, who to me was the only one who really showed up in terms of tackling. Nigel Bradham had 2 opportunities to pick and he dropped them both. So the D better tighten it up as well because, the Saints will run right through us and they don't even really have great defense. But Nick Foles was here during the playoffs when we played the Saints and we almost had that game. So between the Vikings and the Saints, I would rather have the Saints come to Philly again because I feel like it would be like a 360 kind of karma for Nick Foles to finish what he started. And I would like that to happen just for him to get over that hump, to remind him that this is why he loves the game. And he said he loved being Philly, and I never really had a problem with him being a backup quarterback. I never saw him as a starter. I liked him when he was here, and he did have an amazing year. But I always saw him as a very competent backup quarterback. So all is not lost, but it's very hard to tell fans that who are pretty much teetering off the edge of the Ben Franklin Bridge right now, realizing that all their hope is gone for for being a contender, should I say, in the postseason. Yes, things have changed. And yes, I've looked at the most recent NFL rankings and they dropped the Eagles all the way to 4 already just because Wentz is no longer an active man on the team. Meanwhile, Carson has continued to be Carson and put a positive vibe out there by sending a video on his social media about how sorry, he is and not even sorry for him, but just sorry that this is what happened. But he has complete faith in the Lord. And he made that clear first before he said anything else. Besides saying thank you to all the fans and the prayers, he acknowledged that the Lord's will is perfect. And he's right. Because a lot of things in life that we get would make the world boring. If we don't have challenges, if we don't have adversity, if we don't suffer, we won't really relish the beautiful ending that is about to happen had we kept the faith. So, yes, I'm not as shocked that everyone's venting the way they are, but it doesn't make me really want to listen to my radio stations anymore. It makes me want to just make my Christmas playlist on my Apple Music and listen to that all day. I mean, today was a busy day because I had to catch up with my job, and a lot of stuff I had to do. So kind of went in and out of radio a lot today, but I heard enough to make me want to email Mike Missinelli directly a couple times because I felt like he was being such a curmudgeon. But I don't know. That's partially why I always loved him as a radio personality because he kept it real all the time. And sometimes it can be real annoying. Sometimes it can be really negative, but he says what he says because that's how he feels. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. He's staying true to himself. He's also from that old school generation where, you do this is right, this is wrong. And, our generation kind of blurs those lines a lot. So he'll never get the disconnect that there is with my generation getting over things fast. And then his generation, holding the failure up like it's like a Band-Aid, just like I'm always going to have this wound. This wound is never going to disappear no matter what I put on it. So, to each his own. If everyone wants to wallow, I'd rather focus on the fact that they have to play the Giants and I get to see more football this weekend. I'm actually kind of excited because now this weekend starts Saturday night games. I mean, granted, I'm not really interested in too many games other than hoping that the Bengals have a spectacular day and defeat the Vikings one more time so that they can keep continuing to go down the notch. And I'd like to see Drew Brees come back into the fold so that, they become a possible threat to play the first round with the Eagles. I'm hoping that's how it shakes out because I do feel like with Nick Foles being the backup and him being the starting guy, I feel like there's some unfinished business on his end, some loose ends that he needs to tie up by playing the Saints one more time. This podcast is going to be short simply because I wanted to just get out a few ideas that were kind of rolling around my head, even being on the plane coming home from the game, is that, yes, the win kind of did get, swept under the rug after a while. I mean, we haven't had an NFC East division title in I don't know how many years. And I think it was almost 10. But I'm at this point now where I'm just like one thing at a time. This team was 7-9 last year, and we added like a damn a half of the roster we added this year through Howie's magic or pimping on the side. And he's pretty much managed to squeeze as much talent as he can from other teams and bring them here to Philly and rejuvenate this team. And I think that's been an accomplishment. To be anything better than 7-9 and then get the East title after we haven't had it in so long, and we have a second-year quarterback, like, that's not anything to shake at. That's not anything to, stick your nose up at, and that's nothing to act like we lost something. I've never seen a more unhappy fan base with an 11-2 football team record. You would think somebody died, but the spirit doesn't have to die, Hopefully by the next game, everybody will change their tune and just get over the fact that Carson's not playing. Carson's going to still be there. His presence is going to be there, whether or not he's on the sidelines or he's in the booth or he's just sending out constant social, updates on his status. He's going to be with us. He's just not going to be under center, which is probably good because they need to figure out why Vaitai can't hold on certain teams and he can hold on others. Because, it's going to only get harder. And I would rather Carson have been hurt on his own trying to make a touchdown than him getting hurt because Vaitai missed a block. So now Nikki's turn to hopefully not get killed by Vaitai not being able to hold. So I'm praying that Wisniewski is able to play this weekend. And hopefully they'll keep that O-line tight and Nick will be able to throw the decent balls that he's been able to throw in the past. So a lot of people say a lot of generalized statements these days, and nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody can predict the future. Yeah, we're not going to see the same chemistry that Wentz and that team has grown to have since the beginning of this year, but they can also create and pick up where they left off and create a new chemistry that might work even better. It might work to some players' advantages who hasn't been able to fit in as much because they had so many guys in the original roster that either went out due to injury or had to go back on the practice squad or just are sitting on the sidelines. So who knows? I mean, maybe Foles being there will kind of rejuvenate all the places that didn't work for him when he was here. I think it was about maybe 6 or 7 years ago. So all in all, I'd like to say, Bird Gang, we have to stand together. We have to stay positive. We have to unite. We have to pray that Nicky Foles doesn't buckle too much under pressure. It's not like he hasn't been under this kind of West Coast scheme. Yeah, it's a different coach, but unlike Andy Reid, I think Doug's willing to bend. I don't think Andy likes to bend, and I think now Kansas City is starting to see that because they're starting to go backwards. So the good thing with Dougie is he's willing to change, and he's willing to adjust. I just hope that with Nick, he doesn't get less confident because, like everybody else, it's not Carson. Maybe he may not pick it up as fast. He definitely can't run as fast as Carson. So there's just going to be ways they're going to have to improvise. So maybe the running backs will start running more or they'll start blocking a lot more for them so that, some of the wide receivers can start getting the ball. So there's going to be a lot of different things they're going to have to do, and they're going to get used to it. But if they want it bad and if they really want to come out of this 2017 with, almost a damn near perfect record, then this is the time. This is the time to, shoulda, coulda, woulda your butts to, yes, we're going to do this. I don't care what anyone else says, moving forward. So if anything, I'd like to just send a message out there for everybody to stop being negative and just keep it moving. This is basically the motto: faith in Foles, win for Wentz, all those hashtags that I've been putting out there. This was definitely the year that we believed a lot more in the win. So we should continue to believe in the win and continue to EAGLES Eagles, because we've got even people who aren't even fans of the Eagles giving us huge support because we're showing our love all over the globe. So if we have that kind of support and that love, not just because of Carson, but because our team is producing, then we should continue that ride. And so won't you please join and not jump off the bandwagon just because one wheel fell off? Just get a backup. Put that donut on. It can get you further if you just work with it. That's all I can say, you guys. And I'm going to sign out, and I'm going to most likely talk to you guys after the Giants game. Hope you guys pick up your hearts and your mouth, and you just learn to just keep walking, keep your head high. There's a win in the future, and who knows what it's going to lead to. I'm not going to say anything else, but just stay positive. Bird gang for life, and you guys have a great night. That's all for now. Talk to you in the next podcast. AJ Suburban Princess, AJ Overrated Caller at AOL.com, and Birds of a Feather Twitter page. Join me, why don't you? Ciao, Bella.